we're going to look at one part of the AFA product category, which is flooring, and more particularly, we're going to look at LVT, or people call it SPC, or a bunch of acronyms, but let's call it LVT as a category. So let's have a look why today we talk about LVT versus other products that we sell in the flooring category. Well, estimated annual sales for flooring in the next, let's say, 5 years, are estimated to grow at about 1.2% nationally. That's everything in flooring. LVT category in the commercial division is looking to grow by, or to double, grow by 200%, and almost triple when it comes to residential use. So it is one of the, or probably the only growth category in flooring. So that's the buzz. That's what everybody's talking about. That's when customers go into your stores asking for flooring. That's what's top of mind for them. That's what they're asking for. So that's why we're going to concentrate on that. So we're just going to briefly look at where the category comes from. So I think everybody knows that LVT is basically made of plastic or PVCs. Essentially, the way that we were making it when we were selling it as a click product was multiple layers of PVC. When it first started, call it 12, 15 years ago, as LVT as we know it today, it was an amazing product, flexible, easy to use. The expansion retraction ratio was limited, was good, and it worked well for flooring. Then we started wanting less expensive products on the market. So when we'd go to buy, and we'd ask for cheaper and cheaper, and we got cheaper. Well, essentially, that made the product fail, and this is what we were left with. So we're left with a product that had a lot of plasticizers in it, and that the plasticizer would make it expand way too much in hot areas, let's say in front of a picture window and so on. So we get product failure, especially if the product wasn't adhered to the substrate. It would crack, break, swell. It would do all sorts of stuff. So customers started saying, I don't want that. So what did we do? Well, since human beings are really good at focusing on one problem and trying to fix that one problem, well, we created a product called SPC. So essentially, it's the same product, but a lot more stone powder in it and a lot less PVC. So the product is a lot more rigid, and it expands and retracts a lot less. So that's what we were trying to fix back then. We were trying to fix, and we were trying to tell people, no, don't worry, you can put it in front of a picture window, or you can freeze it in winter, and it's not going to go nuts on you. So that's how we created SPC. SPC is a great product because it's relatively easy to manufacture. It's a single layer, single core, monolithic layer that's extruded. So as you extrude, you put the film and the wear layer on top, and it essentially makes for an endless floor. It can go on, and you just cut it when you want it. So it's an interesting procedure to produce. So essentially what the SPC product gave us, and by the way, one thing that I forgot to mention is AFA in 2018 was one of the first companies to launch SPC. Actually, I think we were the first within a couple of weeks on the Canadian market. Essentially what we saw in SPC that really interested us was you can install it 90 linear feet without a transition molding. It's a lot more resistant to denting. It doesn't expand and retract very much. Actually, it expands and retracts 1/10 of what LVT did. So that was an amazing feat. But with everything that human beings change, it causes other problems. So we noticed over the years that we've been selling SPC, we've noticed two issues that would really need to be fixed in order for this to become the perfect flooring. First issue is it's a little too rigid. So our goal was to make it really hard so it wouldn't expand and retract very much, but we noticed that installers were having problems doing it right. So what we would see, and I think you guys can see my cursor here, but we would see where joints would break from being too heavily tapped or tapped off center. The product is brittle, so as soon as you give it any impacts or whatever, it'll crack and break, whereas LVT didn't do that. It would stay relatively flexible, so it could be installed without causing those problems. So essentially, this is what we got. So the more rigid we make it, the more we see these issues here that you see on your screen. So essentially, clicks that aren't properly engaged over time, running chairs over them and so on, we're going to break the ends. And since the product is very rigid, well, it breaks on impact. So we've started seeing those problems. So AFA decided to start writing the next chapter in flooring innovation. We went back to the drawing board, took our knowledge in how to make LVT and our newfound knowledge of how to make SPC, and we kind of combined them together. So we took everything that's good in LVT, which is essentially its flexibility, and then we put it, combined it with the strength of SPC, which was its rigidity. Two contradicting things, but together they work quite well. It's a little slow. And we introduced Volcano. So Volcano is an engineered SPC. That's, I guess, what we decided to coin it. Essentially, as you can see in this diagram here, is we took LVT, and then sandwiched between that a thin layer of SPC. The SPC, instead of being 4 mm, we make it 2 mm because we don't need it that thick. Really, all we wanted to do is to stop expansion retraction. And then we sandwich PVC around it, so it gives us flexibility. So what does that give us? Well, if we look at the chart on the right-hand side of your screen, you're going to see sort of the check marks of what each product can do. So if we look at horizontal stability, SPC was amazing at that. WPC also, if you remember that product, that's kind of gone to the wayside as well, was also good at it. Volcano, since it's using SPC, is very stable. We can use electric heating cable, which this time of year everybody's looking for or enjoying at their house if they have it. That wasn't the case back with LVT or WPC. It's very resistant to indentation because of the SPC core. But then when we get to the other parts where SPC is not so strong, so following the substrate. Now I know that a lot of people, and I hear this, and this just gets to me when I hear this, a lot of people want to use SPC to hide imperfections on their substrate, which it's not really made to do. Flooring is not a structural product. If your customer has an uneven substrate, that needs to be fixed if they don't want to see the waves. If you use SPC over an uneven substrate, well, the product's going to keep moving, and it's going to create like a trampoline effect. So that's going to cause two problems. Severely, when there's a lot of movement, the click is going to be compromised and it's going to come undone. But in any case, it's going to be very loud. It's going to create what we call a resonance chamber. So it's going to resonate every time you walk on it, and that can be annoying. Essentially, that's why we always attach a pad to SPC. It's for comfort, but also it serves a purpose. If a customer installs SPC without pad, the sound is going to get to them, and you're going to get claims for that. So where SPC doesn't follow the substrate, we created Volcano in order to follow the substrate. So Volcano will follow the substrate. Visually less appealing sometimes if a customer has a really bad substrate, but we don't care. That's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to fix the substrate. We need the product to last. So and also by the fact that it's following the substrate, we're not creating that resonance chamber, which is inherently good. So you see that Volcano in these points here is really a perfect product because we combine the flexibility of LVT and the rigidity of SPC. We offer a 30-year limited residential warranty on Volcano and a 10-year light commercial warranty. And here are the colors. Essentially, this is from our price book. So you see really amazing spot-on colors. The collection was created a little less than a year ago, and the colors are really up to date. We use a 0.3 wear layer, PVC-based wear layer, and the specs are there. It gives a 56 IIC rating because it's attached underlayment that we put. Pattern repeat is 6, and so on. So all the specs are there. So then we started seeing, so a while ago we were saying there's two problems. So we fixed one, right? Volcano fixed the problem of the product being too rigid. Now we're fixing the second problem. It's always been a mystery to me why people have accepted the fact that PVC flooring scratches easily. So we went from a laminate world where scratching was or almost inexistent. It's very, very strong surface. It's essentially like a melamine surface, so it's very, very strong. And then we moved to LVT and SPC, it scratches quite much easier because of the way it's manufactured, and people are accepting that. So I'm going to bore you with a little bit of technical detail, but it's important in this case. If you see this structure here, so never mind the core is whatever, but whether it be LVT, SPC, whatever, they're all made with this structure. So the PVC film, which is essentially the image, which could be a picture of your favorite pet, but you know, it's just an image, very thin film that you can tear. And then we apply to that PVC based wear layer. And then there's a UV coating. Now, one thing, and you see that on all these little diagrams that are posted up on the web, you'll see a UV coating. UV coating, I'll just clear out what that is it's a liquid that's applied and then hardened on the surface. UV coating serves two purposes. It protects against UV light, protects the film so it doesn't change color so easily, but also it controls gloss level. So if you want a product to be more matte or more glossy or whatever when you're producing it, well, you determine what UV coating that you're going to use. But when it comes to wear resistance, the important part is that wear layer. So when we talk of a 0.3 wear layer or a 12 mil wear layer, 0.3 is millimeters, and then when we talk of mil, which is MIL, it's imperial. So 0.3 millimeters, which is the equivalent of 12 mil. Normally we say it's for residential, and then we'll go to a 0.5 or 0.55 millimeter wear layer, which is a 20 mil, and that we say is commercial. But it's the same product. It's the same scratch, ease of scratching. It just takes longer to scratch through the wear layer, but it scratches just the same. So no matter how thick the wear layer is, it's still a product that's relatively easy to scratch. So when I say easy to scratch, I mean a rock under a shoe, a chair that doesn't have protective padding, and so on. So it's a product that wears poorly because of scratching. And we see some pictures on that image there. And people are accepting that. They're saying, well, you know, that's what PVC does, and I mean that's what we're faced with. But it doesn't need to be. We introduced in 2020, and we're just launching now because there was this little bit of a pandemic that slowed us down. We launched a product called Titan HD. So Titan HD is the only product of its kind in the country. We've removed the use of a wear layer, and we created a new technology to harden the surface. I'll show you what it does, and then we'll look at the details further. So here's just simple testing that you can actually do in your stores when a customer looks at this product. So the good old marker test. So if you have kids like mine, they like to draw and do all sorts of freaky stuff, then they drop their marker and they make a mess. So normally, if they're on an SPC, you're going to be looking to send them to another home somewhere. If it's on Titan HD, apply a little bit of paint thinner, alcohol. I guess they both work. And there's the result there. So you see how Titan did not take any of the marker. It was easy to remove, and that one is stained for life. So that's just a standard SPC. It's anybody's SPC with a standard PVC wear layer. The burn test. Okay, now this people can be skeptical of this. You're going to have to try it yourselves. You'll notice that we're using the same amount of time, same distance to the wear layer. Now, keep in mind that we do affect our product. We do burn the surface on our product as well, but much less. And the heat makes it bubble, but when you look at it, the bubbling is very minimal. So cigarette that goes out on the flooring, no problem whatsoever. And here's the fun test. This is the test that people really like to do because it's kind of the sham wow presentation. So essentially, using a grinder with a metal brush wheel, and you see that when it grabs onto the PVC wear layer on the right, it burns right into it. It actually digs into the surface. When you do it on the Titan HD, it's much more resistant. There's another video that shows this. This one has sound, and I'm afraid if it's a little loud, I apologize for that. But This one's more interesting because you actually see sparks. So anybody's SPC is on the left-hand side. For 10 seconds of wear, that's what it gives. And then on a Titan HD, we go right up to 1 minute. And the finish is still spectacular. It does become a little bit more gray, and that's because of the bristles. That's actually the metal, the bristles. If you wash that off, you won't see any traces of it. Here's another test. So this is the two other tests that we did. You might say, well, you know, that's never going to happen in my house. I'll never do anything like that to my floor, so it's kind of overkill. Well, not really. Here's a real life test. Extreme abuse, but in a real life setting. So it's hair colorant. I don't know. Hold on, I'm sorry. I just got to show you the proof that it's hair colorant. That went a little bit too fast, but anyway, dark hair colorant that we use, commercial grade hair colorant. We went all out. So we washed it away. We did one test, washing it immediately. And then when it dries, you can see that it's still there. And then we did the other test 30 minutes later. On the left-hand side is SPC, the middle is Titan HD, and on the right-hand side we compare all of them to laminate. Because laminate is really the best thing to compare against because it's the strongest finish that we have. And we added a bit of water to wash the excess off, and that's the result. So the colorant did not stain our flooring at all. So that's interesting. Okay, maybe you don't dye your hair. More and more men do, by the way. And women, they always have, for some reason. But it just goes to show that the surface is sealed, whereas a PVC-based wear layer is more porous. This product is completely sealed, and there's very, very little that can come and stain it or affect it. The other interesting part, or the other interesting point of the Titan HD is the fact that it's the only PVC-based product that can be classified under the AC rating. So normally if you use, to get AC rating, normally you would use a Tabor test machine like you see on your screen there. Tabor test machine, we'll see in a minute how it works, but essentially it bores through the surface and then you calculate how many turns it took to wear through. AC ratings are oftentimes or most often used when we're talking about laminates. But here, this is the only PVC product where you can actually use a Tabor test machine, because if we would have used it in the days of LVT, or if you were to use it under, let's say, for example, a dry back now, you're actually going to wear through almost immediately because the core is soft. So it just, the needle just goes right in and just bears through, and you don't really get a rating. When we tested Titan HD, we got a rating of AC5. So when you compare that to the laminate world, AC5 is pretty rare. Makes for a heck of a good laminate, but it makes for an incredible PVC flooring. So essentially the Tabor test machine, if you want to see if you're interested, this is how it works. So you're basically just spinning and then you calculate the number of turns. I'm just going to zoom back here. So you get here, for example, in these tests, we're at 4,000 and we registered Titan HD at 6,000 plus. So we actually call it, you'll notice on the box, or even you'll notice on the box that we actually call it AC5 plus. The reason for that is it just kept going and we got quite a bit higher than 6,000 turns. So we just decided, hey, you know, it's not just 6,000. We got to boast the fact that we kept going after that. So this is the structure of Titan HD. We're using an SPC, just a solid SPC core, and we're hot pressing the film that's pre-treated. So that's the secret sauce. So this drawing here shows you a wear layer, but the wear layer in this case is not an additional film. It's actually we actually douse the film, the drawing, or the film that looks like wood or tile or whatever. We actually douse that in a solution, and that hardens it. And then we have a very limited time after that to press it, and we have to press it with heat. So it makes that, it's a technology first off, that's very, very difficult to replicate. So it took us, we've been working at this for 3+ years to try to get this right. There's been a lot of renditions, there's been a lot of testing done, and we've really hit the mark on Titan HD. These are the colors. In this case, Titan HD, there are 6 colors, all in plank. Oftentimes we get people asking us if we're going to make a tile. Tiles are possible, we can make them, technically there's no problem. The issue is more of marketing, where tile doesn't sell all that much in terms of quantity. So you probably or might one day see a tile come up in Titan HD just because we can do it and because it's going to be the most resistant glueless installation tile in the market. But it'll always be a limited offering because it's a limited market. And we're going to keep growing Titan HD because really we feel that that's the next step. We might have competition one day, but definitely for now, we're alone with the product. Has the same 56 IIC rating. IIC rating has much more to do with the pad that we use than the product itself. And then the warranty is actually a lifetime limited residential warranty, because there's not much you're going to do to this floor in a residential application that's going to ruin it. And then we have a 20-year limited light commercial warranty. So this is the ultimate floor, and along with Volcano, the offering, the technological advancement that AFA has brought to the market is offering new solutions that are really, really performing. So last little slogan, AFA Innovation, the best in class.